Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today in this module, we will be discussing about waste collection. The learning objectives of this module would be what is waste collection? We will also look about the various components of waste collection. To be specific, the components of waste collection begins with collection of waste from the different sources, how it is being collected by different waste collectors, then how it is carried in different vehicles, I mean the collection vehicles, and how it is transported to a transfer station or a disposal site. To begin with, what is waste collection? Why waste collection is very important? Waste management is very essential in today's scenario, and waste collection is a first step in a waste management process. Waste collection can be defined as collecting waste from the source of generation. The source can be a residential area, can be an institutional area, or it can be an commercial area, or even industries can act as a source. Now, the waste generated from different sources are collected by waste collectors. Now, the collected waste will be carried by a specific collection vehicle and disposed of to a open dumping area or a safe landfill. In between, we also have a transfer station for a temporary storage of waste collection. Now, from the term, we should not confuse waste collection means only collection of waste from different residential areas. It also involves gathering of waste plus the transfer of waste to the dump site or an intermediate transfer station. As I told you, waste collection is a first step in waste management process. It can be defined as the collection or gathering of waste from the source of generation and transfer them to the disposal site or a landfill. Waste collection does not alone mean gathering. As mentioned earlier, it also involves the transfer of waste from the collection, the source of generation, to the intermediate station, a transfer station, and finally to a disposal site, which can be an open dump or a safe disposal landfill. Waste collection is most difficult in areas, especially urban environment, when compared to a rural environment, because the generation of residential and commercial and industrial solid waste, example recyclables, take place in every home, every apartment and every commercial and industrial facility. Also streets, parks and even vacant areas generate huge amount of waste. So, to manage all these waste in urban environment, it is little difficult compared to a rural environment. More diffuse is the waste collection, more is the waste generation, which will increase the complexity of waste collection. This is visible in an urban environment. Waste collection is a costly component in the management aspect of waste. Around 50 to 70% of the total waste management cost is utilized only for waste collection. If the waste collection is properly planned and managed, then the cost will be reduced drastically. Now, the collection can be two different types based on the source of waste. One type of waste, it is called as commingled waste. Commingled waste is nothing but it's also called as a municipal waste, which involves a mixture of residential waste, commercial waste and industrial waste. To be specific, there is no segregation of recyclables and the biodegradables. Everything put together in one bag is called as a commingled waste. The second type of waste is source separated waste. Now, what is source separated waste? Source separated waste is at the source of generation itself, you separate the waste into biodegradable waste, into recyclables and non-recyclables. Now, waste collection is different or it differs with waste and will vary with the characteristics of the facilities and the locations. Now, if you see, there are 5 different types of residential collection services. Briefly, curb is nothing but the resident is responsible for placing the container that is to be emptied at the curb on a collection day and for returning the empty containers to their storage location until the next collection event. The next type, which is called as the alley type of waste collection. Alley is nothing but a narrow lane or pathway for pedestrians. It runs between the buildings, and this sort of pathway is found in older towns. Now, this alley is used as a temporary collection site where the bags with the waste are being placed for further collection. Now, the third type is set out setback services. Now, set out setback service type of collection includes the container are set out from the resident's property and set back after being emptied by the additional crews that work in conjunction with the collection crew, who is responsible for loading the collection vehicle. Next one, set out, it is similar to set out setback service, but the only difference is that the resident is responsible for returning the containers to their storage location. The last one is a backyard carry type of waste collection. The collection crew transfers the solid waste into a wheelbarrow, which is later transferred to a collection truck. The containers are placed normally in the backyard of a house. This is called as backyard carry type of waste collection. Now, we look into the different components of waste collection. Waste collection includes the following components like collection points, collection frequency, storage containers, collection crew, collection routes and transfer station. Now, we look into the details of each of these components. Now, collection points. Now, collection points are the sources from where the waste is generated. It can be a residential area, that is the colonies or apartments and small houses, individual houses. Or it can be an institutional area. Institution means it can be schools, colleges, universities, etc. Or it can be a commercial area. Commercial area means where shopping malls, shops or other small shops are there. Or it can be an industrial source. Industrial source, it can be a specific industry from where the waste is being generated. The collection point determines the size of the crew, storage points, time required for collection and cost involved. According to the number of collection points, the storage points will also be designated or decided. Now, the collection point also determines the time required for collection. If you have more collection points, then it takes more time and vice versa. Again, the collection point will also determine the cost involved. More the collection point, more will be the time required, higher the crew size or larger crew size is required, and it will finally increase the cost of the collection because more people are required for collection. Now, we will study about what is collection frequency. Time intervals at which you collect the waste, it is called as collection frequency. Collection frequency depends on many factors. First one is population, community, income group and lifestyle. Now for example, higher the population, more will be the collection frequency. Same way, the income group and lifestyle also decides the collection frequency. For example, if you have a high society or high income group staying in a particular locality, there the amount of waste generation will be high and this will require collection of waste more frequently. Then comes your lifestyle. For example, in an urban environment, the generation of waste is higher. So obviously, you need more frequent collection. Unlike a rural area where the amount of waste generation will be very less or minimum and the collection frequency also will be decreased. The next factor which influences the collection frequency is climatic condition. Climatic condition also determines how frequently you have to collect the waste. For example, in a hot, humid climate, you have to collect the waste frequently, at least twice or thrice a week, because during these climate, it will favor more microbial activity. Higher the microbial activity, more will be the decomposition or faster will be the decomposition of the waste. Even at your home, you would have seen if you store the waste for more than 4 to 5 days during such climatic conditions, you can get a very bad odor and also you can find a liquid, a dark liquid oozing out from this material. This liquid is called as leachate. I'm sure everybody would know, like every substance or every material will have some amount of moisture in them. Once the biodegradation starts, this moisture oozes out as a watery material and it is termed as leachate. Now this again will create a problem. So it is essential for us to dispose of the waste immediately. Otherwise it will lead to contaminations and it will attract insects and other pests. Also, if you have a putrescible matter, putrescible means a material which rots much faster or which has a potential to rot. Now these putrescible material must also be collected frequently. Otherwise it will cause unnecessary health issues. The next factor which influences a collection frequency is the requirement of a locality. Now, as I told you, if it is a residential area, then the frequency of collection will be high. Maybe every day or once in 2 days you have to collect the waste. Unlike a shopping area or an institution or an industry. Because in a shopping area, the amount of waste that would be produced will be only paper or carton boxes. So these can be stored and collected even once in a week, unlike a residential area where a lot of biodegradable waste will be produced. The same thing is applicable for industries too, where you can store the waste for some time or a few days and then you can collect it. Urban area also generate more waste than rural areas, hence it also alters or changes the frequency accordingly. Urban area also generates more waste than rural area, hence accordingly the collection frequency gets altered. Now next factor is the requirement of a container. The collection frequency is also determined by the containers. For example, if you have an open container, then there will be a lot of problem, like the street animals or stray animals can get into it and then create a lot of mess. So it is essential always to have a closed container. So if you have an open container, then you have to collect the waste on a daily basis, which is not the case for a sealed container. Also, according to the population and quantity of waste generation, the number of containers should be increased. If you have a large population and you have very less containers, obviously the waste or the dustbins or the storage containers kept will be full in a short period of time. So this will lead to the overflow of the dustbins with waste material. Finally, cost is also one important factor which determines the collection frequency. If you don't estimate the amount of waste generation properly, or if you have irregular waste collection practices, this again will increase the overall cost of collection. Hence, cost also plays an important role in determining the collection frequency. Now, next important component is a storage container. This is very essential. You have to choose the storage container in a proper way and it has a specific characteristics. Now, if you choose a container properly, it will save your collection energy, it will also increase your speed of collection and it will reduce your crew size. Now, what are the characteristics you will look into a storage container? The storage container should be durable or strong, it should be made up of an inert material, it should be cheap or economical, and it should be corrosion resistant, and it should be a sealed. Sealed means it should have a lid so that it will not allow the entry of water and other insects and animals into the storage container. Also, the container should not have sharp edges because the sharp edges will lead to cut in the fingers of person who are handling the waste. The container should have a capacity to hold a weight of around 20 kg and not more than that. This will facilitate easy emptying of the waste. Also, you should avoid usage of wooden containers, example like containers made of bamboo, rattan and wooden baskets, because they will readily absorb and retain moisture, and the surfaces are generally rough, irregular and they are very difficult to clean. In residential areas where refuse is collected manually, refuse or waste is collected manually, then you should have a standardized metal or plastic containers. When a mechanized collection system, mechanized means you don't need a person to collect the waste from the storage container and transfer it into the tricycles or other trucks. This is automated, where the containers can directly be fitted into a truck and then overturned so that the waste gets emptied into the compacted trucks. Next component of the waste collection is collection crew. Collection crew means the persons involved in collecting the waste from house to house and transferring it into trucks and taking it to the transfer station or disposal site. Even the supervisor or the manager of a particular crew is also involved in a collection crew. Now, collection crew or the size of collection crew for a specific community depends on certain factors. First, it is the amount of waste generated in a locality, or it also depends upon the rate of waste generation. Second, it depends on the frequency of waste collection. More the frequency, you need a larger crew. Then, collection methods, whether you are doing a door-to-door collection or the waste is being dumped into a common place and from where it is collected. For example, in recent times, if you see, there is door-to-door collection. So, door-to-door collection, you need more people to go to each individual house and then collect the waste. Instead, if one particular colony dumps all their waste or if the waste in a particular colony is collected and stored in a common place or a storage container, it will be easy for the person to take or transfer the waste into the collection vehicle. This will again reduce the size of the crew. Another factor is the spacing between the houses. If the houses are continuous or a street is full of houses, then the collection crew size can be less. Sometimes the houses are sparsely arranged or placed. So, there the collection crew size also will be higher and the time required will also be higher. Lastly, the crew size also depends on the size and type of collection vehicle. If you have a smaller collection vehicle, then you have to repeat the collection. For example, in a residential area, if the collection vehicle is very small and half of the houses are collected, the person has to go dispose of the waste or transfer it into a collection vehicle, then he has to come back again and then do it. Or the person have to work in 2 shifts, or 2 or 3 persons are required to collect the waste. So, this again will increase the crew size. Then, route characteristics. For example, if your route is having a number of signals or a lot of barriers, example, it can be a railway track or some bridge or some traffic signals where you have a lot of traffic congestion, that will also determine your crew size. The next important factor which determines the crew size is the labor and the equipment cost. The crew size will increase when there is increase in the rate of generation. Also, an increase in the quantity of waste in individual stop due to less frequent collection will also increase your crew size. The crew size have a great effect on collection cost, which leads to improper collection frequency, segregation of material at source and implementation of automation in collection. Next component is collection routing. If you plan a collection route properly, this will decrease the overall cost in addition to labor cost. It will also conserve your energy by minimizing your vehicle fuel consumption. Also, it will reduce the working hours. The size of a route will depend on factors like the amount of waste collected per stop, what is the distance between the stop, what is the loading time and what is the traffic condition. As I told you, barriers will determine the size of each route. If you have a rail route or embankment or a river road with heavy traffic, then you can divide the route accordingly into small route territories or small zones. The last component of the waste collection system is the transfer station. Transfer station is a centralized facility or an intermediate station where the waste that is collected from different sources, residential, industrial, institutional, or other sources are brought into one common place. Now, this place can also act as a processing site. It is a temporary storage site from where the waste from small tricycles, they bring their waste, they empty it there, and the waste is being transferred to a compacted truck, and then it is taken to the disposal. So, transfer station is a centralized facility or an intermediate station where the waste from collection vehicles are unloaded and reloaded back into larger vehicles for transport to a disposal or processing site. As I told you earlier, they act as a temporary storage and a processing station. Waste processing such as shredding, compaction, that is size reduction, volume reduction, sometimes incineration, composting, all these waste processing methods are followed in a transfer station. So, finally, if you see, if all these processing is done, the waste, the quantum of waste which is carried to the disposal site will be very, very less. The transfer station also facilitate the transfer of waste from smaller vehicle to bigger vehicle. It involves additional capital cost of building transfer station. It also involves extra labor and energy for transferring waste from collection truck to transfer station. Now, the problems of transfer station would be it attracts flies and other insect vectors. It also leads to odor problem and traffic and noise due to movement of small and large collection vehicles will also create a disturbance among the community who are living near the transfer station. To conclude this session, today in this session we have seen what is waste collection. As I told you earlier, waste collection is a first step in waste management and it is the most essential step. Now, we have defined what is waste collection. Waste collection, as I told you, it is not only the collection of waste, it also involves the transport or transferring of waste from the source of generation to an intermediate station, a transfer station, and finally to a disposal site. We have seen the different components of waste collection system, and we have also discussed each of these components in detail. In the coming module, we will discuss about the storage container and the collection vehicles in detail. Thank you.